We now get into our first speaker of the day. I'm really excited about this. I've just seen a clip of some really good videos. So, from YouTuber to head of creative, the life of video, I'm going to hand you over to Darren Martin. Thank you, Darren.
Hello. I think really good videos was overselling it a bit, but they are something for sure. So hello, my name's Darren, and I'm going to be talking to you today about basically my journey from YouTuber to head of creative. So, who am I? Well, this was me when I was about your age. I'm Darren Martin. I'm head of creative at the Evergreen agency. We are a digital marketing agency that provides paid search, paid social, and creative specifically for home, garden, and lifestyle brands across the UK. I have 10 plus years of video experience. I'm an ex-YouTuber. That's how I got started in video. I'm 100% self-taught. I've never done any degrees or I have no qualifications in video itself. And I've worked in-house and in agencies, and what that means is I've worked for brands specifically, and then I've also worked in agencies that cover lots of different brands. And I'm a storyteller marketer. I love to tell stories in everything I do. Whenever I'm creating ads, I like to try and weave in the story behind those ads. So, just before we get started, show of hands. Did you know what you wanted to be when you grew up, when you were little? Those of you who are courageous, anyone want to just shout out what that was? Engineer? Lawyer? Astronaut? I think I heard footballer as well. Lots of really good ones, and a lot that I've heard a lot before, actually. When I was a kid, you'd get a lot of the same ones. In fact, quite a funny one, my brother, when we were about 6, I remember in class, he didn't say fireman, he said fire engine. I'm not really sure what his plans were for that, but didn't work out, I will say that. But when I was a kid, there were a lot of the same answers to that question. Doctor, that was a big one. Actor, another big one. Athlete, whether it's a footballer or an Olympian, there was always these answers. And the thing is, none of those really sat with me. Didn't really see myself being a doctor, an actor, well, maybe a bit of an actor, but definitely not a lawyer or an engineer or a footballer, as some of you have said. Now, what I liked to do as a child was write stories. Loved to write stories. I wrote tons and tons and tons of stories. And it begged the question, well, does that mean I should be an author? But the answer was no, because the thing is, though I liked to write stories, I just didn't like reading books. I could never get into it, still struggle with it to this day. Half of the time I think I might be dyslexic because I just struggle, but I think at the end of the day, what it really is just a really small attention span. And the thing that really captured my attention as a child was gaming. Still a massive gamer to this day. And I realized over the years, a big part of that was the storytelling. I loved the stories that came out of games. And fortunately, over time, those have just gotten better and better. And I'm sure many of you in this room today are gamers yourself and know what I'm talking about. So I thought I'd just give you a quick overview of the last sort of 10 years from when I started making videos to today. Back in 2014, I was at university, and it was my first year, and I had a university grant, and that's meant to be for food. Now, that's not how I spent that money. I ended up buying myself my first camera, had to live on 11p Tesco noodles for about 3 months before the next grant came in. But it got me started on YouTube, and I immediately fell in love. Now, when I say I immediately fell in love, that might make you think I was really good at it. But you'll see soon enough that that's not the case. But that didn't stop me from falling in love with it. It didn't stop me from making over 200 videos on my YouTube channel while I was at university. But as I'll show you now, the graph of my skill is one that went up and down. While I was at university, I wasn't studying video or film or anything like that. I was studying music. And the main reason I was studying music is because I was in a band with my friends and we thought we were going to be the next big band. And that all came crashing down when the lead singer of the band decided that he didn't want to do it anymore. Now, I at the time was in college and I just didn't know what I was going to do. So because I was so afraid of stopping what I was doing, I thought, well, the next step is clearly university. So I went to university to do music. And I wasn't really sure about it, but I thought I have to be moving forward. So I went to university, and during that time, when I was doing my YouTube channel, I had a reminder from actually the same brother who wanted to be a fire engine. He said to me, "Are you not doing a music course? Are you really sure you should be spending this much of your time on YouTube instead of practicing music?" And it was a bit of a wake-up call, but also it kind of saddened me because even though it did make sense, I really liked doing YouTube more than doing music. But he was right, and if I was ever going to pass my university degree, I had to concentrate on that more. So my skill in video stagnated a little, and then it went down even more when I left university, started full-time employment, didn't even get into anything to do with music because it's a really difficult industry and you kind of got to know someone, and I didn't know anyone. So my skill went down. That was until early 2020s when I realized that I could make a career out of my YouTube videos. And it was actually when I used those YouTube videos to apply for some jobs that I realized that what I was doing for a hobby in my room, something that was very silly, was very personable to me, that could be something that I could use those same skills to make a lifelong career out of. And that takes us up to today, in which I'm now the head of creative for the Evergreen agency, and I continue learning every single day. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some of those learnings soon in this presentation as well. But the key thing that I wanted to just make sure that you know is that it's okay to not be constantly moving forward. I wish someone had said that to me. I wish somebody had said, if you're not sure that what you're doing is the right thing, you can stop. You can take a break and you can think about it. Because I was so worried that if I didn't keep moving forward, even if it was in the wrong direction, that I would be doing something wrong. And what that meant was that I went down so many wrong paths, and it took me much longer to get to where I needed to be. So if you take one thing away, just remember this. Another interesting quote here, and I promise this is the only slide with a bulk of text on it. If you look at any kind of cognitively complex field, from playing chess to being a neurosurgeon, we see this incredibly consistent pattern that you cannot be good at that unless you practice for 10,000 hours, which is roughly 10 years. And if you think about it, that's about 4 hours a day. So really, if you take that into account, I'm only just getting good. It's taken me this long. And I can say that with a surety that that is true. I am always learning. But everyone starts somewhere. Even me, even this little boy with, you can't see it, but under that ahoy it says mateys. Ahoy mateys. A little jumper. Everybody starts somewhere. Even me in my university room. Hi, I'm Darren Martin, and this is the first episode of Years. Now, in this episode, you've come in at the best time. I want to tell you a few things. Like for starters, let's start with the reason I am doing this. Yeah, it's a great moment to come in. You've seen the best slide in the whole presentation. That was me. I mean, I'd like to say that I always had it, but I think that video kind of shows that It took me a while to get it, and I think that's okay. Everyone starts somewhere, as I said in the previous slide, and it's okay to be bad when you start. In fact, you can't be good unless you're bad, because you don't get good unless you start bad and then practice. Another key thing I want you to take away from today is don't grow up. When I was a kid, I had plenty of people telling me, you've got to grow up, Darren. I remember with my friends talking about our first jobs. I had my first job in a corner shop, and I remember we said, it's called work for a reason. Because we had this understanding that when you go to work, it's not something that you enjoy. It's not something you have fun at. You do it to get paid. It's called work for a reason. And that phrase was one of the most depressing things that I could ever think of at that age. Because I specifically remember working in that corner shop and my friends coming by one day telling me about a road trip they were going on, and I couldn't go. And at that point, I decided that I was going to do something that I loved. Maybe I was wrong about the best part being before. Everyone loves a bath, even me. Now, there's an example of not growing up. That is a very silly video that I used for a project, for an interview, for my first video job. And it got me the job. Thank you. So, and you know what's even worse is that they used to use that video for apprentices. They used to show that to people to show them what you could do. But it's just an example that you can't take yourself too seriously. But also, if you are a fairly silly person, as I consider myself to be, then use it. Express yourself. Be you. And people will like you for it. And people will accept you for it. Now, practice what you preach. Now, this man up here with me, now that's Aaron. Now, sadly, he couldn't be here today. He's not dead. He's just busy. But Aaron is the MD of the Evergreen agency, and he has been one of the biggest enablers for me ever since I started working with him. He will constantly, I will constantly approach him and say, I've got this idea, Aaron. Now, obviously, we can't do it. And what that tends to then turn into is him saying, well, we have to do it now. And because of that, we've done some ridiculous things over the years. And I thought I would just show you a quick montage of some of those things. There you go. Just a little montage there. So, lessons learned. I've learned a lot of things over the last 10 years. I've made some mistakes, and those mistakes have taught me things. And I thought I would share a couple of those with you today. Some actionable things that you can take away. The first one, of course, is a big one. AI is dead good. It's dead good. It's really good, honestly. There's so much you can do with it. And I'm going to show you some specific tools that I use every single day that I would highly encourage you to use. Now, ChatGPT is the one that everybody knows. And if you don't know it, I highly recommend you check it out because it is amazing. But it can only do so much. ChatGPT, I like to think of as a science guy. It's really good at analytical things. Claude, you may have heard of, fairly popular, but not quite as popular as ChatGPT. Now, Claude I like to think of as the more arty one. It's really good at writing, much better than ChatGPT. ChatGPT tends to be a bit cringy. It tends to say things like innovative all the time. And rather than saying things like, in today's landscape, marketing is forever changing, it will say, in the realm of marketing, and things like that, which are really cringy. You can say it stop being cringe, and it will, but Claude is just much better. Now, Gemini by Google as well, really useful. I don't use that so much as for what I just explained with the other two, but in terms of meeting notes, if you're doing like Google Meet, it has an AI meeting note taker, and that can be super useful, especially if you're doing any lessons or anything like that, and you want to just have an AI summarize anything that is super useful. Opus Clip. Now, these are the ones I'm going to get into now, more specific to video. Opus Clip is a really good tool that you do have to pay a subscription for, but it will essentially cut down long-form videos into short clips that you can use on social media. Then we have 11 Labs, which again, we're getting even more specific now. But 11 Labs is a really interesting voice AI tool, which you can access a whole library of AI voices, type out what you want, and it will say it. And it is honestly really believable. I actually did, going back to Aaron on the earlier slide, I took a recording of him and put it on there, and then made an AI version of his voice, so I could get him to say whatever I wanted, which I immediately put in, yes, Darren, of course you can buy a new drone. And I was like, okay, well, Aaron, if you say so, I'll do that then. And then finally, Runway. This is one of the ones which is very interesting and something that I've used very recently. Some of the ads that I create, I'm often limited by the assets available to me. Some of our clients, they'll have photos, but they won't have video. Now, that just doesn't work for me. What I could do is take those photos and turn them into a slideshow of sorts, a carousel. But with Runway, you can basically bring a photo to life with AI. And it is honestly mind-blowing. And you can use that for free. You get a certain amount of credits. So definitely try that out. Now, I am running out of time here, so just some quick tips. Just some very, very quick ones. Now, these are very, very actionable and very, very specific because I've been recruiting at the moment. I've actually just recruited a new creative for our department. And I've got to be honest with you, I hate recruiting. But there are some very, very easy things that you can all do when you're applying to jobs that will put you ahead of everyone else. Now, I actually was on the podcast that has been promoted here. I was on that the other day. And so you can check that out when it comes out. But I was talking to Becky, who again you saw on the screen, and she had the idea to, rather than send in an application just like everyone else, do a video one. And I think that's an amazing idea because it will immediately make you stand out. The other thing, if you're applying to video roles like mine, you need a show reel, but the only thing a show reel will ever really show a recruiter is that you know how to make a show reel. So make sure you have a portfolio as well. And I'm going to move on to our last slide. I've got a couple of seconds left. And I just want to leave you with one quote that I find to be so true. And it's a bit of a mantra for me. You don't have to be the best. You only have to try your best. And now you might ask, who said that? It was me, just now. And that's something that I've said to myself and to others for my entire life. When I went to college, I was not the best, but I tried my best and I achieved what I wanted. When I went to university, similar situation, far from the best, but I really tried. And trying has been the best thing I could have done for my entire life. So I'll leave you with that. Thank you very much. If you want to keep up with what I'm doing, YouTube for our Evergreen agency and my LinkedIn, please check those out. Any questions?